Hey guys, so I thought I'd show you this little walkthrough of this painting that I did a while back, a couple of days ago. And yeah, it's just a fun little sailing scene, small island scene. I got a bit inspired by Wind Waker, Zelda. Just been listening to the soundtrack and I thought I'd do something fun like that. So I hope you enjoy this. I did speed it up a little bit, just like twice. So this took about 2 hours, and yeah, this video is something about an hour long. And if you want more cool design tutorials and art videos and stuff like that, definitely do subscribe. Stay tuned for more, there's lots more coming. So I started the canvas 3500 by 2000 pixels wide. And as usual, I like to just take back the levels to a gray. I don't like working on white. And so, yeah, I just want to get some shapes down at first. Just some colors, and sometimes I just work with black and white or just shapes on them on their own. But you can mix it up. There's no set way of working. I feel that this really starts to overcome that initial start, the initial inertia, I'm not sure about the English word about that, but how something is heavy to get in motion, but once it's in motion, it wants to stay in motion. And so, that's the whole thing about the creator's block that everyone talks about, this inactivity that they can't do anything. They think it's about procrastinating or that it's lack of motivation or something, but I don't really believe that creator's blocks exist. I think the only thing that does exist is the lack of starting, the lack of getting that inertia going. And as soon as you do start, like this, you just get started, you just paint stuff. I don't know if this will look good or not, but I just started. And as soon as you do that, you'll overcome that inactivity. And you'll start beating this, creator's block. So, yeah, as you can see here, I'm just putting down some shapes, putting down some colors. And I'm using the lasso, I'm using some smudge tool. And I'm thinking about like some island with some castle or some building like that. Kind of having an idea in my head, but I'm not exactly sure what to do. I'm kind of letting these happy accidents come, and as they do, I see cool shapes and I find interesting new things. Just gonna take a sip of tea here. Sorry if this noises. This is peppermint tea with some honey. It's a really good combo. So here I just wanted to make it kind of dark, and I wanted to make the sky darker as well to sort of match that, where the sea goes up to this thing and then it sort of meets the sky, the dark sky. But yeah, going back to that thing about procrastination and about why you can't sort of get going with your art or why you get stuck. I mean, just think back to when you were in school and you had that assignment to do, and then you kind of didn't do it until the very last day. And what happened? Did you not do the assignment? No, of course you did. You just spent the entire night just finishing it up and making sure that it was finished. And well, maybe it wasn't your best work, but it was still something that you actually finished and that you showed your teacher. So it's the same thing with art, even if you are not super inspired or motivated, you can still do art, and it can still look pretty okay. Maybe not your best work, but I think it's definitely something to think about whenever you feel that I don't really know what to do, or I feel stuck with my art, I don't feel creative enough. It's just throw some colors on there, throw some values, take some photos even and throw them in there, do some photo bashing or something. You just need to overcome that initial... What is that? I gotta Google that. I think we call it tröghetsmoment in Swedish. How do we say that in English? Yeah, okay, it's called moment of inertia. Yeah, it's like, you know, when you have, let's say, I don't know, a heavy car or something, and you push that car and it's really hard, but when it actually is rolling, it just keeps on rolling. So, or a ball or whatever. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what's happening on the scene here. I'm just adding some interesting color to these rocks. I was thinking about the rocks that we have out here in our archipelago. We have these really interesting rocks lying everywhere, and they're sticking out of the sea. Small islets. I usually think about them when I'm sailing and stuff. And that's definitely something you should be doing as well whenever you're traveling or going around to places. Make a conscious effort to study your environments. You know, study where you are, the scenes that you're in, whenever you're traveling or wherever. Even people, objects, scenes, whatever you see. You should make it into a habit to sort of think, how can I paint that? Or what does that make up? And that's also where references come into play. Someone asked me the other day, do you do all of this out of your imagination? Or, you know, do you use references? And they're afraid of using references. And, you know, I always say to my students that no matter what, always use references if you want to improve and really learn something. You know, I've done a million rocks, so I know how a rock looks like. And I do consciously study these small shoal rocks. So yeah, definitely do use references, and you can even have them side by side while you're painting. That's totally fine. You can even check some stuff on Google and, you know, any kind of references that you want. But I think the best thing to do is just make it into a habit to keep thinking about things whenever you're going around and looking at people and objects and scenes and stuff. And it will become easier to paint that as well. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that you can see how I'm starting these paintings and how I'm starting these different objects in the scene. I always start very simple. You know, I do a really simple shape, because that's what comes first of anything, the shapes. So you should learn how to manage your shapes. And so I put down big blobs of paint and I just shape those. You know, I have made something called the S3 method, which I teach you in my cinematic design course, which is basically, you know, you start with your shapes. The S3 method stands for shape, sculpt, and season. And so you start with your shapes, make your composition and everything, you know, that's the most important step. And then you sculpt those shapes, you know, start giving them form, you sculpt them out. And once that's done, you know, you just season your painting, just like a chef, you know, he starts with the main ingredients, start shaping them, cutting them up, frying them up and cooking them, and then finally seasoning them. And then you have a beautiful, delicious dish. So yeah, that's a good way of going about painting as well, I think. I think my microphone is really sensitive, so it picks up like every single sound. So yeah, here I'm just starting to add some of that darker sky. And sometimes my computer lags. I'm not sure why it does that. I think it's because I have this new, or 1.5 years old, or 1 year old iMac Pro. And it's pretty okay. I mean, it's an amazing computer with amazing specs, but I don't think a lot of things are optimized for it. So I do have quite some issues with Photoshop at least, and yeah, it does lag sometimes. I'm not sure. Didn't have these problems before with my MacBook Pro. Yeah, and here I wanted to have some more separation between the horizon and the rest of the sky, so I just brightened that up a little bit. I think it looks pretty okay, but I wanted it a bit darker, so. And also you see here I'm doing these lines. They're kind of going out of the middle, and that sort of leads the eye in a bit more. The same thing with the shoal rocks or the islets. They are pointing in towards where I want them to look. I'm just using a cloud brush, making it dark there, and I had some idea later to let some light shine through, so you can check this out in a bit. But you know, even as it is right now, you know, that's kind of a concept that you're done with. It doesn't take too long, you know, it took me 20 minutes to reach this place, this point. And as you see, this is the most important part of any painting. I mean, it won't change that much after this. Here I'm doing, you can see how it's lagging, it's so weird. Not sure what's going on, but I'm using mixer brush and dragging them down so it looks like it's raining. You can get some really interesting effects. I shared some videos on this on my YouTube channel here for you guys. It's called How to Get a More Painterly Look or Artistic Look, and also blending techniques. So I really like using the mixer brush. It's a great tool. Smudge as well. So I'm just cleaning it up a bit. It's good to have some proper management of your shapes. It's also something I talk about in my course. Honestly, my course is just huge. I talk about everything in there. So if you haven't checked that out yet, there's a link in the description. Definitely do check that out. You know, there's lots of students in there having fun, discussing their art and sharing stuff on the platform and everything. So definitely recommend joining. But yeah, managing your shapes is very important. Managing your edges as well. Because if you don't, you know, things kind of blend into each other and you lose that separation and understanding of what it is you're painting. Because here you can see I'm using very clear shapes, and they pop out, you know, they stick out from the rest. And here I still actually have the selection there, but I just hid the selection edges over up there in view, and then show selection edges. So many cool techniques you can do in Photoshop, and you just get better and better the more you do it. Like with anything. And that goes back to actually the references that I talked about earlier. You know, it's I still use references, but and I also do studies. But it's more so that I've done, you know, this is my comfort zone, doing these landscapes and stuff. So I don't really need too many references for most of this stuff. But if it's something new, like let's say, well, what haven't I done in terms of landscapes? Well, probably nothing, but let's say I'm doing some different architecture or some city or town or something, and I want to find out how does this building look, or how is the style supposed to be. And so I'll actually use references, you know, because why not? You know, I should use references to become better, and that will build your visual library. So, you know, the visual library is extremely important for any artist to build. And here I'm doing this sort of counterpoint thing. I'm not sure what that's called in art. Actually, I never studied art. I just been painting since I was a kid and just continued with that until I started to get jobs and stuff and got better and better. I still need to get a lot better than I am, but yeah, life is a journey, right? But yeah, anyway, so the thing where you see it kind of goes from, from bright to dark, and then the background sort of switch. That's a pretty cool effect. I think that's called counterpoint as well in art, but it's called that in music. You have your main melody, and that melody is sort of contrasted by a counter melody. So they're going in and out of each other and contrasting each other. Oh yeah, don't forget to save. It's very important to save. I've gone almost 30 minutes into the painting right now, and I still haven't saved, so I usually sometimes forget that even hours in. So be better than me, guys, and save your work. But yeah, do let me know if you'd like to, see more just pure live or pure real time. Sorry, and live as well if you're up for live stuff. We will do more live in the platform, in the Evenant platform. So definitely check that out as well if you haven't already. Most of my stuff is in there, and I hang out in there. New courses as well. Our challenges are in there. We hang out in the groups and share our art and everything. Here I tried to make it a little bit brighter to see if that would be nice. But actually it wasn't so nice, so I just decided to not do that. You see there, the shapes don't get clear anymore, so I just took that away. Yeah, maybe this is a good idea. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Maybe I can do stuff like this where I paint something, and we can have Q&As, and you can watch just like I'm doing now, but I can talk in a live stream with you. Maybe that'd be cool, actually. Alongside, just me painting while having the live stream. That would be also pretty fun. But then I have to focus as well on the painting, and yeah, lots of fun stuff we can do. I always like hearing what you guys think, what you want to see, and how I can help you the most. Just using some smudge tool, or actually the mixer brush. Trying to get some interest in the sky. It's not always easy. It's a pretty dynamic sky here. And you want to tell stories with your paintings. Even the sky, the sea, everything that I have here, it's all trying to tell a story. And actually, right now we're working on a new course. It's called Visual Storytelling. And that's by Adrian Verlan, which will be amazing. I mean, he's done such an amazing work on that. And it's basically teaching you how you can make these paintings and think about story. Story is such an important part of any art creation. You always want to tell your stories. Humans are so captivated by them, and as soon as you implement that in your paintings, you just get so much more interest, and your audience will really like your paintings after that. So But yeah, that should come out pretty soon. Maybe you're watching this in the future and it's already out. If so, do check out the Evenant website and the platform. It's free to join, so you can just join anyway and hang out in the groups. We also have some free courses in there that you can check out, free design courses, and share your work in the groups and stuff. So here I'm just trying to add some more. I say dynamics, but I guess more lighting and more interest in the sky. But I don't want to overdo this. I have rain and I have light and clouds and horizon and a bunch of stuff. So I do overdo it with this red thing here. So I'm like, nah, let's not do that. But you should experiment, Experiment, see if it works out. If it doesn't, then yeah, there's always an undo. It's much easier on a computer than it is doing it in oils or gouache or sketching or drawing. And I'm adding some color into the sky. If you look at a stormy sky or just the large cumulus clouds and stuff, you'll find a lot of color actually. You find some red, some orange and yellow from the sun. Sometimes when it's storm, you can see even some blue and green. It's pretty interesting. So here I'm just adding some shapes, some water shapes, to break up the massive shape that is the sea. Just a little bit. To have good design, you should think about your proportions. That's one of the design principles that I keep talking about in my courses and an ebook and stuff, is proportion. So you want to kind of think about it as the Pareto principle, 80-20. So your painting should consist something around like 70% big shapes, mostly like really big shapes. So here you have the ocean. That's a pretty big shape. Like if you squint your eyes, you can see that that's a decently big shape. The sky has some pretty big shapes in it. And then about, let's say 20% or 25% should be medium shapes, and then 5% small shapes. If you have that, that sort of relation between all your big shapes and all your entire scene, you pretty much achieve a good proportion and good composition for your designs. You got tons of examples of that. But yeah, even when you have, for example, objects and you want to design them, even inside of them, you can have that relationship. So if you look at those spires there, it goes up about 100%, and then about 80% up, you get that little cut. So it looks kind of pleasing. If it was like half of it, it would look a little bit strange. Or kind of dull. So there's lots of design principles to think about, but once you know a few of them, then the rest kind of fall into place. So now I'm actually thinking about that lighting thing. So I wanted to have like a super bright rim light here, like the sun would shine behind there. And I really like that, actually. Maybe I should just have stuck with only that. Sometimes I tend to overdo it. And it's something I keep practicing. But I do continue with this throughout the entire painting. And there I just gave it some form. Like it's reflecting from the sky above. Making a new layer, linear dodge, the same old thing that I usually do. And I thought the light would come from behind here. behind that cloud over there in the scene, in the screen. So I wanted to do some god rays. Yeah, while you're watching this, maybe I can answer some other questions. Let's see if I can find some on YouTube. I think I answer most of them actually. Yeah, I can see I'm just adding god rays everywhere. I should really work on not overdoing things, but I can't help myself. Yeah, I'm just blurring a little bit. And gonna erase some of them, so it's not so intense. David Taylor asks, can I ask please what color picker you're using? It's actually just the regular one. I don't think there's any other, right? Or maybe there's plugins for that. I'm just using the Photoshop one. You know, I'm holding down Alt or Option in my case, because I'm on Mac, but yeah, that's the only one I'm using. And then the plugin there, Cooler, is a really nice one. Can actually put in some pre-made like tertiary and complementary color schemes and some cool stuff, and I just have it right there. Kind of like it like that. I'm curious. Destroyer 120296 asks, do you use opacity and size trigger pressure? Yeah, I use pen pressure for opacity, and then there's some brushes that I don't. I only have that for size, but definitely I do use pen pressure for opacity most of the time. Evenant says, the fact that you use barely any layers is incredible and has really pushed me to simplify my own process, which has really helped me speed up my work, though I'm nowhere near making something this good in only 10 minutes. Yeah, talking about that landscape that I made in 10 minutes. Yeah, you know, it's really important to simplify. I'm all about that simplification, not overdoing things, and well, actually I do overdo things, but not overcomplicate things, overthink things. Just throw them down, you know, just make super simple shapes and the rest will fall in place. Once you just simplify things and simplify what color is, you know, what are the main principles with color theory, and how do you build something up? You know, everything is built the same way in its foundation. So finding out what the most simplest form, the first principles of something is, you'll have such a great time painting and honestly learning anything, really. Master Koi says, I'm in Walid's class, Cinematic Design, from idea to finished concept art, and there is a good module on just learning all tools of Photoshop. It helped me a lot to get started with digital painting. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy you like that, Master Koi. I tried to make a fully, you know, immersible course for beginners. With that, you know, you learn anything about Photoshop and the design principles I'm talking about, mindsets and rendering materials and landscapes and characters and matte painting and a bunch of stuff. So yeah, there's lots of cool things in there. So I'm really happy that you like that. Actually, you wrote a pretty long comment. I really appreciate your words. But it just gives you more ways to do things. I mean, there's more than one way to do the same job. You're right about that. Yeah, some funny comments here. Yeah, you can see here also where I'm painting that I made like a super bright turquoise water there. I think that was a pretty cool effect actually. I really like doing that dramatic light difference there. I think that looks pretty cool. And then it's important to separate the rocks and blend them in, because rocks and seas usually have this foam around them. Witchcraft. This video is so helpful. Could you do some video like this on a full scene like this? He's talking about the shading, the easy shading method for beginners video that I made. Like some fast painting concept arts like stuff. Well, that's kind of what I'm doing now, I suppose. How do you draw with the sun directly shining in your face? I think it was shining from the left side, so I like the sun. And here I'm adding more of those small shapes. So like I said before, 5% of the whole image should be small shapes. Or around there, of course you can switch it up, but it should definitely be mostly big shapes, and then medium, and then small. Yeah, some of these questions I've already answered actually in other videos. Here I'm just using the the mixer brush. I was using the mixer brush and then just blending between everything, because I actually merged everything into one layer. I haven't used many layers in this painting, only some stuff with the linear dodge and stuff. But it's not super necessary. I'm adding some more foam. And the closer you are to the camera, where we're standing and looking at the scene, the more important it becomes to make your things, your objects and your scenes in the front look a bit more realistic or rendered out, I should say. I spent 2 hours on this, but I could spend something like, a full day, let's say 8 hours, and that would mostly be just this stuff, just rendering it out and making sure that it looks super finished, because the composition is there, you can see it now. This is pretty much how it's gonna look, apart from a small boat I'm gonna add in the end, but the rest is just finalizing and adding some nice light, and this is the seasoning, the half of this process, the rest of it is just the seasoning. Yeah, this is a stage where I really can overdo lighting and stuff, but yeah, it looks pretty cool, don't you think? Untraceable4 says, I love these tutorials, the best on YouTube for digital art. Thank you so much, Untraceable4. Villager C says, when you added the blue to the shadow, I was so surprised by how much of a difference it made compared to just using black. Yeah, I was talking about when you have a blue sky and your shadows aren't the shadows from the sun. If you just make them kind of black or the color of what's under it, then it won't look too good. It's okay, you can do that, but if you start shining them up with the sky color or whatever's around, the ambient light and the bounce light, it will really start looking very realistic and have this like global illumination aspect to it. So it definitely does make a big difference when you think about the sky as an actual source of light, instead of just the sun or just some lamp or whatever. Even the ground, when you have the sun hitting the ground, it will reflect back up to your scenes, to your rocks and your characters and everything. So do think about that when you're lighting up your scenes. Mohammed Diab says, hi Walid, can I know what tablet you use? I actually use the Wacom Intuos Pro Medium. It's really lovely tablet. I really love using this. Here I'm just adding some small mini shapes. Mini shapes. Mini-me. And it's kind of leading up into it, blending together so it kind of fits. Safayat artwork, thanks. Teach us more for free. Yep, that's what I'm doing. 0 dislikes, woo! I think maybe it has like a dislike now. Easy shading method for beginners, let's see. I think it should have a dislike. Maybe not, please. Come on. Yes, it has 0. Okay, only like so far. I hope none of you goes in and just dislikes just for the hell of it. No, I have a great community here. Awesome viewers. Hunting Sunder, trying to figure out why I love this video so much, but then I realized it's because he's painting rocks, and I have a strange obsession with painting rocks. Yeah, me too, for some reason. They're so pleasant to paint. That tea is really good. Yeah, here I just added some more green. I felt it was a little bit too dull on the back there. And you can see this is kind of the same techniques, and I'm not really doing too many new things. Just blending and painting and putting down shapes and starting with simple shapes and making them more and more detailed as I go. And I'm sometimes using the lasso, the eraser, you know. So if you're having trouble with workflows, then you need to just get more acquainted with the tools themselves. So do use the lasso more, try that out, switch over to the smudge, to the burn tool. Someone asked earlier also about layer styles and brush modes or styles. I think that could be something cool to talk about in a future video. Like how to use different styles. I do talk about it, of course, in my cinematic design course, but maybe I can do a free video on that as well here on YouTube for you guys, if you want to see that. So really a useful aspect of Photoshop, being able to use linear dodge and overlay and multiply, screen, darker color, lighter color. You know, there's lots of great modes that you can use. And here I'm making it more 3D, you know, three-dimensional, so it's not so flat. And giving it some more soft light. It's important to use both hard edges and soft edges, and not only one of each. Or one or the other, I mean. That's really all about managing your edges. I talk about that a little bit about that in the blending tutorial, but I talk about it way more in my course. Dude, that artsy unicorn says, dude, thank you so much. Could you maybe get Clip Studio Paint and see what you can do on it? I'm too cheap to pay for Photoshop. Yeah, maybe. I haven't actually tried that Clip Studio Paint. I mean, I'm all about Photoshop. You know, it's pretty cheap. Definitely worth it. But maybe, yeah, I can check Clip Studio Paint out and see what it is. I think it's free, right? Clip Studio Paint. Maybe not. Download free trial. Buy now. How much is it? $50% off. Okay, so it's 50 bucks regular, 25 bucks without. Yeah, that does sound good. I don't know, I think that if you're somewhat serious about your art and you really want to improve, I don't think there's any other painting software than Photoshop. You know, it's just so versatile, and there's so much to do in here. And I'm not really sponsored by Adobe, but I still really love Photoshop, and it's just so useful in so many ways. Here I'm actually selecting with the magic wand and feathering out the selection and painting in with overlay, brush mode, some more like aquamarine color, just to give it some more variety. You know, you can see up there in the navigator how it kind of goes from this turquoise green to the more aquamarine green, and I think I like that more. Here, just continuing on those small foamy things there. Yeah, I might check out Clip Studio Paint, see if that's cool. Salo Gun says, really great work as always, and I love this technique to create texture with lasso tool and Marshmallow Mountain and your music. Oh, yeah, that crazy plugin or whatever app with it's called Howler, I think. So I have it set as a timer, you know, I have it set to like 10 minutes. And when it hits 10 minutes, start howling. That was intense the first time I heard that. Dude, please make more videos, even if they're just 5-minute speed paintings. I absolutely love your work. Thank you so much, Dylan. Yeah, I mean, just let me know what kind of videos you want to see. I'm just sort of making videos now, more and more, for you guys. Experimenting a bit to see what you guys enjoy. But I did those 10-minute things, and I think that's pretty fun. Here I'm just adding some of that vegetation type stuff that you see on rocks. It's so amazing to see how fast you're growing, Aka Stuff says. Thank you. Yeah, it's really fun to see how this channel has been growing more and more. Yeah, as you can see, this painting is really starting to come together. Just same techniques as usual. Here I'm thinking about the foreground, but I think I wanted to leave that open a little bit more, at least so there's like some pathway between these archipelago rocks. And you see how easy I created that rock there, just simple shape from the beginning, and then add a little bit of form and light to it, and then in the end some texture, some color, and you have a pretty convincing rock there. I'm gonna do the same for the boat later, to start with like a very dark or black shape. Of course you can start straight from color, but yeah, you know, you can switch that up. And I do keep adding those little bit darker outlines. I think that makes it sort of sit a bit better, at least at the edge or the bottom, because there'll be least light, and yeah, I don't know, I think it looks better that way, especially when it's contrasted with this bright water line there. And you know, it takes time to become good at art. You know, it's not something that, if you're stressing about that, you know, if you're frustrated that your art isn't really looking the way that you want to, it really does take time to just practice, like with anything. But you should have fun while doing it. That's the key thing. It should never be a chore to do art. And every time you paint, it always helps. It always makes you better. Here I just did some levels. So I fixed up the values a bit more. Just made it pop a bit more. So as you can see, it's just small fixes here and there. Not much has changed in the past like 20 minutes or so. But yeah, that's painting. I mean, it's like this, you know, the initial part is the most important ones. That sets everything, and then now you're rendering it out. You're finalizing it. You're making it accomplished. And I'd say that's that's actually not the easiest, you know, making it really well accomplished. But actually the first part, I'd say, is one of the most hardest parts. Probably the hardest part, like the very beginning, because that's where you're setting the major shapes and the composition and everything. Luckily you can jump between them, you know, you can experiment and see where you go. Here I'm just working with color balance, seeing what I like the most. In the end, I managed to stick with something that looks pretty much similar to what I had from the beginning. And here I'm just going back and forth actually between what I had before and what I have now, because I thought now it looked too clear, like it was, you see there, I kind of liked that haziness to where I had before. So what I'm doing is actually duplicating this, and I'm going to take away some of the new one, and desaturate. Now I'm gonna sneeze. I don't have the Rona, hopefully. Yeah, I just realized maybe I shouldn't joke about that. Anyway, so here I'm just adding a mask, and now you see if I paint on it, it actually takes away that that layer, part of that layer. So I'm just trying to get back some of what I had before, where it's not too happy, you know, too bright and stuff, a bit more hazy. And now I thought I'd make these towers or thingies here a bit taller. I think that looked better. So these are kind of like the final tweaks that sometimes I just like to step back, you know, and look at and see, what can I do to make it a little bit better? And don't be afraid at this point to like completely make it different, you know, you're painting, you can scrap this entire thing and start something different, you know, you can take away that entire top thing that island there, and just try something else if you don't like it. But I thought that it was too short. It looked, I don't know. I thought this looked cooler somehow. Doing more dark, pointy things. Adding some markings in there. Yeah, I wonder what's in there in the middle of that sort of altar thing. And that's the thing, that's about the story, you know? Like, story is so much, it's so important. And that's actually why I added that little boat there soon. So you'll see in just a bit. But yeah, I kind of like that small addition I did there. Looks like it's really part of that rock. Here I'm making the shapes a little bit more interesting. Still the same design language. But yeah, man, definitely should do more live streams, I think, where I can paint while talking to you guys, or maybe even talk over, something like this, hang out with you, so I don't have to stress about making amazing paint art. So now I'm just establishing the horizon just a little bit more. Going up to view, show, take away selection edges, and making it a bit brighter up there. The horizon is an important part of a scene, especially when you see it. Even very small changes of the horizon can make a big difference, just because of how our eyes pick it up. And yeah, here's the difference between what I had before, and I think this is much better. A bit more hazy. Looks a bit more dreamy. A bit more mysterious. I think I'm using, saturation. So I wanted to make some parts a little bit more saturated. And so I selected the ocean, just to give it a bit of a variation. This is the seasoning stuff I was talking about earlier, from the S3 method. And I was debating if I should add some boat or something. I think it looks pretty okay as it is right now, but yeah, I decided to do that anyway. It's gonna come up any minute now, and I'm just doing some burn between the shadows and the midtones, and dodge as well. Again, be careful not to overdo the nice magic dust, magic touches. So now I'm making this little boat here. I actually sped it up much faster, just because, yeah, it's just a small little boat that I painted. Dark shape first. Start simple. I used the warp tool. Some eraser. And then did the mast. Kind of like one of those old 1700s wooden sailing I don't know the English words for them. We call them eka in Swedish. And I use some red sails. Just keeping it simple, you know. This is also something you can spend a lot of time on, making sure every single little detail is really well done. Making a tiller. And some guy sitting there, or girl. This is where something like a 3D program can really come in handy. When you want super nice perspective and proper design, you can actually find like 3D models of these ships, put that in there, you know, make some super simple mock-up of a scene, and you just put that in and you start painting over that. 3D is a fantastic tool to use. Blender as well. Blender is free, you know. It's amazing software. Let me know if you guys are interested in that. In 3D softwares and stuff. I use Blender. I did use a lot of 3D Studio Max before, but now I actually use Blender more. Because it's free and there's so many awesome things for it. Yeah, there's a little boat. I'm just looking up there in the navigator. I think that story looks kind of cool. Like this boat is sailing in and something cool happening. There's 2 people on there. Could have made that better, but yeah. You know, don't have to overthink art too much. You get better and better. So this is nearing its end here. Just a little bit of fixing left. Then I'm fixing that little part there. It looks a bit too harsh with the yellow. Just saving, and here I'm actually doing some cool little trick that I show you in the courses as well. I just took a rust thing and I paint over a bit with color, just some different color variations. And this will make sense in just a bit. This makes no damn sense right now. I put it to overlay. And having it sort of near gray will actually... You're gonna see here when I zoom in just a bit. So if I increase there, you see it doesn't really change the scene. It just adds some interesting texture to it. Like a painting or just something that gives it a bit more texture. And color variation. But anyway, that's the end of the scene. And I hope you learned something cool from there. I had fun painting this. It took about 2 hours, and yeah, just a fun little concept. So if you like that and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe if you'd like to see more of this, and do let me know what you want to see more of. I hope you'll have a great continued week, and I'll see you soon. Take it easy.